Well, it's been a while since I've made a list, and I have been playing a ton of N64 games lately, so I thought I'd make a list of my top 10 N64 soundtracks. With that being said, I feel like the N64 has some of the best music of all gaming. But what do I consider to be the best? I'm not sure, let's check out now. Well, for this top 10 list, the only rule is that it has to be on the N64, and that's it. So without further ado, here are my top 10 N64 soundtracks of all time. Number 10. Paper Mario. Although not my favorite soundtrack in RPGs, I really love Paper Mario's soundtrack. It is so amazing. From picking a file and to getting to Bowser at the end of the game, this game will have you foot tapping in no time. I think my favorite songs have to come from Chapter 7, almost automatically making it my favorite chapter just off of the soundtrack alone. Number 9. Mario Party. My favorite game in the series has to be the next game, but man, the soundtrack from Mario Party 1 is just so much better than any other game in the series to me. From Mario's Rainbow Castle to Bowser's Magma Mountain, I really enjoyed the music in this game. And they started the series outright with some of the best soundtracks in all of the Mario franchise. Number 10. Diddy Kong Racing. Well, I never thought I would look at this game. I may actually do a review of this game sometime in the future, but man, I love the soundtrack for Diddy Kong Racing. This game's music will make you sing and toe tap to it every step of the way, from Fossil Canyon to WizPig's Battle and TT's Time Trial. This soundtrack is so sublime, and I love it so much. Number 7. Super Mario 64. Mario 64 is one of the more underrated games as far as 3D space of Mario gaming. I think this game's soundtrack could compete with just about any soundtrack in the series. And on the N64, from walking into Peach's Castle, the first time getting to Bomb Battlefield, and getting to Koopa Road. I love this soundtrack so freaking much. It is so amazing. Number 6. Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards. Kirby 64 has an amazing soundtrack, yet it still keeps the kiddo-esque sounds and instruments from the OG games. But this game steps it up with other sounds that I cannot describe, except they sound so amazing. Kirby 64 is already an amazing game, but with awesome music, it just makes the adventure that much sweeter. Number 5. Star Fox 64. With an already fun gameplay, Star Fox 64's soundtrack is so good. I love the military feel of it. When listening to the soundtrack, I love the drums and horn instruments. The game's soundtrack is so amazing and really sets an ambience and epicness that really sets the stage for whatever situation you are in. And the sense of urgency from the final boss really makes for an excellent soundtrack and one of the best on the N64. Number 4. Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Okay, when it comes to soundtracks, holy cow, I love Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask soundtrack. It sets the tone for the darkness and creepiness from the beginning. And with that same music, you realize you're not in Hyrule anymore. I love the soundtrack for this game. Sure, there are better soundtracks in the series, but this is such a quality soundtrack. Number 3. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Yes, my favorite game of all time has one of the best N64 soundtracks of all freaking time. Folks. On Ranch, Kakariko Village, this game is so awesome with the soundtrack. With the greatest tunes of not only the N64, but the entire franchise. I love this soundtrack so much. So nostalgic, and at the same time holds up today. Number 2. BanjoKazooie. For the longest time, this soundtrack was my all-time favorite on the N64. Grant Kirkhope is one of the best musicians of all time in gaming. It made such a phenomenal soundtrack. I love this soundtrack. The Mumbo's Mountain, Treasure Trove Co., and much more. This soundtrack really encapsulates the era, and it's so amazing. Before we get to the final soundtrack on this list, here are 3 honorable mentions. Honorable mention 3, Rayman 2. Rayman 2 has a very underrated soundtrack. I love listening to it. My favorites have to be the Cave of Bad Dreams and the Level Select, and is also one of the best I've heard when picking a level in games. The soundtrack just barely missed this list. Honorable mention 2, Donald Duck Goin' Quackers. Donald Duck Goin' Quackers soundtrack is pretty freaking amazing. To To be honest, it is super simplistic, which is why it stayed off my list, but I cannot deny the quality that it brings. However, it's just a good soundtrack to listen to. Honorable mention 1, Super Smash Bros. Now people are going to be mad that I didn't put this on the list, but look guys, I love the soundtrack. I think they're just better soundtracks on the N64. For how much I love this game's soundtrack, there are others I could not push off the list, and this is a very close 11th spot on this list. Number 1, Mystical Ninja starring Goemon. Okay, this one may be a surprise to most, but I love this game's soundtrack. Oh my heck, it sounds so great while getting progressively better, and to be honest, I cannot think of a bad track at all in this game. Mystical Ninja has to be one of the most underrated games with the most underrated soundtrack in gaming. This game and soundtrack are so awesome, and you should give this a look at just for the soundtrack alone. Well, that's my list. I hope you enjoyed my silly opinion. After all, it is just my opinion. The N64 has awesome soundtracks on it, and I just personally think these are the best ones on the N64. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.